Welcome back to the Woo, the Science in You. We are now on episode 7. And following last week's episode, Sophie, I've arrived and she's made some lovely homemade soup. I wish you could taste it. It's absolutely delicious.
And it is full of so many good antioxidants, polyphenols, good for your gut bacteria. And so if you don't know what we're talking about, then you must listen back to episode 6, which we talk about all how food can heal you.
Yeah. However, do you know, so we changed the theme of this week's episode, didn't we?
Yeah, we did actually.
So a couple of episodes ago, we started talking about childbirth, and then we started to I might do it in another episode.
Because you were starting to be all like, this is what I did in the French house musical. I was like, hang on, I need to know more about this because we haven't been friends that long. So there's lots of good stories. We still haven't heard from each other.
8 kids between us.
Many children.
Yeah.
Many children who are actually still around and hanging about. And dogs now coming on the scene.
Do you know what's just come to me actually? So I want to start with this, right? So if you're listening to this, whether you have children or you're pregnant, one thing that always struck me, so I have loved giving birth. Like I love the birthing part. And after giving birth, I always remember the first pregnancy, people always tell you it's awful, it's horrific. And they frame you for this horrific experience, whereas actually it's an amazing experience. And if we look at every film, every television, like I'm yet to see, and again, please write in the comments if you have seen one of these films where the woman has a really beautiful tribal sort of ecstatic birth. It's all like
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is absolutely right. You know, we've talked before about kind of how a lot of things we can't always explain work, and a lot of it does come down to the placebo effect. But one thing that we know about the placebo effect is what you expect a certain treatment or medication to do completely changes the way you think about it. So, they've done studies, for example, where if they say this is a painkiller.
So, go on, I feel like I want to say something.
You're so excited.
I am, yeah. So essentially, the placebo effect is all about the belief. Right, so the subconscious belief will always dictate the outcome.
Which I guess is the same thing we're talking about. Because what I was going to say is if people believe if they're given a painkiller versus a sugar pill, the pain goes down when they take the painkiller. But if they make the painkiller red, they believe that is a stronger, more powerful painkiller, and therefore it works better. So it's often to do with what our expectations are, which are based on past experience, whether or not we're an optimistic person. And I totally agree. I think we set ourselves up for this being a disastrous, horrible thing that women have to worry about. In fact, one of the first things I always say to women who are pregnant maybe for the first time is don't necessarily expect your birth to be awful. In fact,
plan for it being amazing.
Because I have talked a bit about my deliveries because I talked about it in episode 1, Breathwork, how because I went back and had Ernie's, but actually my second was Nelly and I had a water birth, and I still think that's one of the most amazing experiences of my life. So I think if women have the idea that it could actually be amazing, then that can change the course.
And also, who was it? And again, great with stories.
Here she is.
So when we all used to free birth at home, didn't we? So like years and years, we'd literally free birth at home. The dog's looking at me.
Have you got something to say, Pip? She's just trying to get the mic.
And then it was introduced. Why was it introduced? You might even be able to tell the story. There was a reason why they started to introduce births into hospitals. Whereas actually there seemed to be more problems when births were introduced into hospitals because it was in a clinical setting rather than a comfortable setting. And actually I had a home birth with Dudley, my last one, and it was unbelievable. So one thing that surprised me, you go through your first birth and you experience it the way you experience it. And there's always that contraction the contractions, they are painful, but the experience itself, I loved it. But then the second time I give birth, you remember the pain. And because you remember the pain, you know where you're at in the stage of labour. Did you find that?
Yeah. And actually the fear did get me a little bit because it is like you remember the pain because your brain does that when you go back to the state that you were previously in, which is why you remember a dream when you're going back to bed. Yeah. You remember it when your brain is in that similar state. But yeah, I had to overcome because it is painful. I mean, but then in fact, it was Davina McCall when I was pregnant and my husband.
You told
Paul,
me this.
Yeah, he was working on Big Brother. He's a TV director, and she was the presenter. And I was super heavy pregnant, and she was like, "Oh," when she came to say hi, and so it was my first baby, and she said, "Just remember, the pain is not a pain you need to fear. You can welcome the pain."
Oh my God, that's what I thought. So do you used to welcome the pain? Again, right? I think when you do hypnobirthing, they teach you, don't they, to welcome it in. So literally, the first 3, I've had water births with all 5 children.
Oh, wow.
I loved it though. Like I can't imagine birthing any other way. And we were talking, weren't we? Like actually, you're not supposed to be led down on the bed birthing. What is that to do with gravity?
I mean, yeah, it makes absolute sense from a physics point of view.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have a poo laid down.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I have been joking.
Yeah, if you want to push a large melon-sized thing out of a small hole, then let's get gravity on board. Why not?
It's great. So I wonder why the beds were introduced then, because it is a crazy.
I think because it was just a hospital, you know, the idea that this is hospital, you will, you know, and to do as you are told. It was that kind of old paternal style
of midwifery and birthing.
Yeah, when I had, I did hypnobirthing. In fact, I think hypnobirthing is probably what opened the door for me to enter the world of kind of a slight woo.
I think you're more woo now.
Because I was a medical student when I had Betsy.
Yeah.
And a medical student friend of mine had just had a baby, and she hadn't had any pain relief and had had a really quick labour, and it was her first one. And I was like, how have you done this? And he was like, hypnobirthing. And I don't think I'd even heard of it. So then I kind of learned all about it, and I was definitely up for giving it a go because that one experience, what we say in science, N=1. And luckily, I think Paul was totally on board with it, because I do think for hypnobirthing, your partner, whoever your birth partner is, needs to be fully on board with it, because you do lose your head a bit. You know, that's actually kind of almost normal that you go into a state where you think you can't do it at one point. So you have to be brought back around.
Don't you?
But all those things, so it's kind of visualization, using, like we had, Paul had planned in advance things to make me think about sounds, to remind me of things that I'd touch, to enhance all your senses, to bring all my senses in. So he was like, oh, do you remember the smell when we were on safari? And, you know, we'd wake up in the morning and go outside, and I was like, oh, yeah, I do remember the smell. And because actually the brain, the pain is there to warn us. Yeah. So pain itself isn't actually the tissue damage. It's a warning to try and to get us away from something that may be damaging us. So if you burn your finger on a hob, the pain is there, so you move your hand from the hob. Yeah. But in a normal, healthy delivery, obviously things do go wrong, and this isn't always the case. But if everything's going well, the pain that a woman feels during delivery isn't a pain to be a fear of. So if it's your brain and you're in control of that communication system, if you can almost rewire your own brain during that time, it can work. So when I did pregnancy yoga, for example, I remember one of the things is to sit back on your toes, which hurts. But I remember the pregnancy teacher being like, don't worry, your toes will not break. Yeah. Like and breathe through the pain. And that's when you practice managing your pain. Like I was remembering the golden thread, because, you know, distraction itself is a really helpful way of just getting around the pain. And I often think about when I ran the London Marathon, and I didn't notice that my feet hurt. And when I took my trainers off when I got home, I had loads of blisters, and, you know, you got like nails that all look manky and bleeding. And I thought, I didn't even feel this. Yeah. Whereas if I'd gone around the supermarket and my feet were like that, I'd be like, I can't walk another step. Yeah. This hurts. And it's because there's other things going on. So your brain can't handle everything all at once. So it will only decide whether or not what to give you. So if you can use all the hypnobirthing techniques, you can manage the pain so much better and not fear it.
You see, it's funny actually, because my children, I've got 3 who are with Alistair, the girls' biological father, and 2 who are with Alex, but all the kids call Alex dad. And the birthing experience was totally different. So the girl's dad, he did not have a clue what was going on there. I remember just giving birth to Poppy, and he was really overwhelmed because obviously, like, it's like a little alien coming at you, isn't it? And he ran to the door, and he was like at the window, and the hospital windows, they don't open. So he's like trying to breathe through it. And I could tell like he wasn't a great birthing partner, but I think it's because he didn't know what was needed, or do you know what I mean? And we were both quite young. Whereas with Alex was like giving me a massage, and just everything, that the experience was totally different. But also with the girls, it was very much, going to labour, had really brilliant births with all of the kids. Whereas with the 2 boys, I brought more of like the tribal stuff in, and like the chanting. And we touched about this. I loved it. So movement is great, isn't it? So literally when you're moving, literally you're moving your body, you're moving the energy around, you know, the energy is helping the baby to come down, you're taking your mind off it. And also, like, I don't know, like, I think birth is a very intuitive practice. It's so intuitive and your body takes over when you're actually pushing. But also, I believe that your body takes over way before you actually get to the push stage. So I put this, Alex fell asleep during having Digby, sorry. And I thought, right, this baby's coming out. And I'd been in labour for this part for about 8 hours, whereas the girls, they were done and dusted within a couple of hours. So I was like, right, I'm not having this. So I put this French house music on. I'm like, oh, welcome to pain. And I'm literally, do you when you have that wave of a contraction, I'm like welcoming this pain in. So I'm totally at ease. I was like, ah, like total maniac. And then Alex woke up halfway through. He was like, whoa, I'm in a nightclub here. What's going on? And then Dudley, like Digby was born. And then a few years later when we had, I'm getting my kids' names, Digby was born then. And then a few years later, we had Dudley, and we had Dudley at home. And the weirdest thing, talk about, and again, I believe truly in spiritual guidance, we had this home birth, and number one, it's actually quite tricky to get the temperature of the water spot on. So the hot water ran out. So Alex is having to boil the kettle, put the heat in, put the boiled water in these pans, chuck it in. Anyway, long story short, about an hour before, I said, the baby's going to be here in an hour. The baby will be born at, what was it? I think it was, oh my God, what was it? 4:14. I said, he's going to be here. Well, I thought it was a girl. I was like, 4:14, that's when the baby's going to be born. Anyway, there is a video after I said that, and I'm literally dancing. I'm like, oh, it's actually on my Instagram. If you scroll way back, you can see it. Yeah. And it was just amazing. Like literally this pain, this rush, but you have that one contraction where literally, like you said, your brain takes over and you think, I can't do this. But every time with all the pregnancies after Poppy, I've had that contraction. It's like, I can't do this. It's like, whoa, the baby's here. But when I had my home birth, it was really painful, but it didn't get to the same level as pain. It didn't get to the same level of pain that it did with the others. So with all the other 4 pregnancies and the birthing, there was that excruciating contraction. And I was like, right, I'm near the end. Whereas with Dudley being born at home, it just wasn't the same. I didn't have that same level of pain. It was bizarre. And like literally when it started to feel painful, then he was born. Do you think that's amazing?
Yeah, it is amazing.
But it is.
When I was practicing the hypnobirthing, we were living in London. And so this was Betsy, my first. And I had a bit of a bleed, and so said, and my contractions already started. And I said, I think I better come up. I was a medical student, so I was like, I think I better come in. I was worried about placental abruption. I knew too much. I was like, didn't tell Paul, but I was like, oh my God, I've had a bleed. Oh. And it was fine. But anyway, so it was a really busy hospital. Like she's born October 1st, September's always the busiest time. Anyway, they said, they looked at me and I'd walked in and they were like, you're just going to sit in the waiting room. We're really busy at the moment. And I was like, oh, okay. So we sat in the waiting room and I was having regular contractions, but we were practicing all the hypnobirthing we've been doing. And Paul kept nipping out and saying, is anyone going to come and see her? And they were like, we're busy. And so he kept going to find someone. And she got annoyed, the midwife. So she came in, she looked at me again. She just looked at me from across the room. And because I looked calm, and was sat there in my jeans and clothes, she went, listen, you're not even in labour and I'm dealing with women who are in labour. This is your first baby, isn't it? And I was like, yeah. She went, we're going to be sending you home soon, so just hang fire. I was like, well, can I have gas and air? She went, you can't have gas and air yet. If you have it now, it'll run away by the time you need it. So she was like angry at me, like telling me off. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, this is my first baby. I don't know. She knows more than I do. And then I started to push and I started to shake and I knew that was the adrenaline. And as a medical student, I'd been on the labor ward, I'd seen it. So I was like, I'm pushing Paul. I'm pushing this baby out and I'm sat here in a waiting room in my jeans. So he ran out and he was like, somebody needs to come now. So a midwife came in, a different midwife, thankfully. And she was like, oh, let's get you a gown. And as soon as I put the gown on, waters popped. I had to straddle across the ward with this, and the baby, she was already coming. Yeah. So I'm walking and then I get on the bed and I went, can I have gas and air? And they went, just push. She's here. Like, I didn't know it was a girl.
God,
the baby's here. And then, I did. So I didn't have any gas and air. I just pushed and out she came. And so the next day, the midwife who'd been mean came and she went, oh, I hear it was quite quick in the end. And I was like, no, I'd been there 2.5 hours telling you I was in labour.
Yeah.
And you told me I wasn't. But you didn't even look at me from any closer than across the room. She just based it on the fact that I was my first baby and I looked calm. Yeah. And but that was the hypnobirthing.
Wow.
So it worked that well.
Yeah.
So I literally knew I was like, do you know what? If I do hypnobirthing again, I'm going to have to fake scream.
Yeah. I'm in labour, I promise. that good enough?
Yeah. So that's how effective it was for me. Wow. I mean, I've kind of tried to sell it to so many friends, but I think that you've got to like fully get into it.
Yeah.
You've got to fully make sure your partner's on board.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, my vagina is opening up like a flower. You've kind of got to not be embarrassed about those kind of things.
Do you know what fascinates me? Just talking kind of from a spiritual perspective, right? When having the girls when I was like 24 to 27, that's quite young and quite quick. And I never really appreciated how absolutely fascinating it actually is. Whereas having the boys being like in my 30s, you just kind of just like literally from a little part, a little tiny sperm and a little tiny egg, and then they come together by magic. And then you literally grow a human being.
It still blows my mind.
Yeah. Do you know what my theory is, right? So when we come into the world, we come in like totally helpless, don't we? And if we die naturally of old age, we leave the world in that same space as if we're getting ready to be reborn or rebirthed into our next life. Do you get me? I love it. Yeah. There's the great analogy as well. Have you heard the analogy about the two twins? Shall I share it?
Yeah, share.
Yeah, I love it. So it's an analogy, and it talks about these two twins, and they're in the stomach and they can hear these voices around them. They can feel like warmth and they feel the presence of something. And one of the twins is, I feel like the end's coming. I'm getting scared. And the other twin's like, no, there's something greater than us out there, something that's looking after us. And the second twin's like, no, it just doesn't feel good. I feel like we're coming to the end. But obviously when you use it as an analogy, the voice they can hear is mum's voice. The energy and the presence is mum's. So again, I believe that we are these tiny children of like the universe, of God. And we're literally, when we have this intuition in our senses and, when we're guided, and we are literally being prepped to enter the next life, the next level. Yeah. I went deep there.
That went deep. I love it. I love it going deep.
Yeah, just call me philosopher, Jessica.
No, I love it. Yeah, I mean, I'm still totally amazed today. I still look at my children's like ears and the complexity of the ear.
Yeah.
I'm like, I made that.
Yeah.
How did I do that?
Yeah. Or even that little hands, like with it, especially Dudley, because he's still got tiny hands. His hand just fits in the palm. Oh. And I'm like, wow. And then I look at Pops and, bloody hell, teenager. And I'm like, wow.
I know that's the other thing now that Betsy's so tall. Sometimes she's like a woman in my house. I'm like, Paul, that woman is our child. She's not a woman, she's only 13, but yeah, she's starting to look it. So yeah, and you said you had a dolphin story.
Oh my God, yes. So it's not nothing to do with me and a dolphin. So again, from a spiritual perspective, dolphins are kind of the closest to us in consciousness and IQ, right? Again, great with stories. This is going to be the tagline of the podcast. And they were saying that dolphins can actually help to assist births. I was like, no, this can't be real, not a chance. Anyway, SHITU not. There is a video on YouTube where a dolphin is in the water, and this is pre-AI. I watched this, must have been about 15 years ago. A dolphin is in the water helping this woman give birth to a child. It's fascinating. But more to the point, when I told Sophie that I had a story to do with the dolphin, she went, I've got a story to do with the dolphin breastfeeding. So I'm trying to work that out. I feel like I need to pass over to you now.
Oh, my story. So when Betsy was a little baby, we went over to Australia because Paul was working on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So we used to go over there quite a lot for a few months. And I was sat breastfeeding it on the edge of a river just by myself. There was nobody around. And then this mum dolphin and baby dolphin just came up, and like I sat there breastfeeding, and then they literally I've got a video of it on my phone because I was like, wow, and they just splashed around and they kept going and then coming back like right in front of me. I was on this bench like right in front of me, and I felt like she knows I'm like breastfeeding. And
I've got another dolphin story if you have to this, which I think you're definitely coming over to the woo. No, you're go on, carry on the story.
Well, that's pretty much it. I mean, they didn't do anything else, but I just felt like she knew, and there she was with her baby,
100%.
and there I was with my baby, and I was like,
this
felt pretty great.
This is totally out there and totally woo and totally like.
Okay, I'm going to try and not do the face. You always tell me off that. I always go,
So, right, talking about dolphins. So I also believe that dolphins are part of an extraterrestrial energy, right? So when I started to do my Reiki Masters the first time, my Reiki master at the time, she was giving me healing, and then my arms shot up, right? And I was like, oh, this is weird. I was like, I feel like I'm giving you healing. She's like, no, we're sending a signal. Then all of a sudden, this entity or this energy just dropped into my body, and I felt a different shift. And I was like, and started talking this like light language. Anyway, fast forward, I was like, wow, that's really weird. a couple of days later, me and Alex had gone up to Tynemouth, right, in Newcastle to go and visit my dad. And we're on the beach, and then I felt this energy drop in again. I was like, oh, so we're on the beach, and I started to just randomly draw these symbols in the sand, right, as if I'm sending a message. This is going to sound mental. As if I'm sending a message, right? 10 minutes later, dolphins appear in Tynemouth, right? So they come every year, but they hadn't been seen. It was the first time. But I genuinely believe, like, again, if we look at sort of the quantum field, the energy of the field of possibilities, I'm going deep in as Sophie.
She is.
I think Sophie might think I'm mentally ill. Maybe I am, who knows? But there was like a connection with the dolphins. What's your view on that?
Oh, I love it. I have a tattoo with dolphins.
Yeah.
My little dolphin. So, I'm all on board with dolphins being somehow.
But when I'm saying that though, what do you think? Like, do you think it sounds crazy? Do you feel like a remembrance? I'm hoping it's the latter.
It's a little bit of both. I like the story.
Okay.
Who am I to question it?
Oh, I've got another dolphin story now. I feel like I'm on a roll. So I think it was actually in Australia, there was a family, and they like sharks were circling the family, and apparently some dolphins saw, this could be one of those urban myths, but apparently some dolphins saw, they guarded off the sharks and they brought the family back to shore. Isn't that a nice story?
It's a nice story.
Don't know if it's real or not, but...
Okay, so we've gone from, we always go on a tangent.
Yeah.
The birthing.
Yeah.
What about, and did you breastfeed?
Yeah, all 5 of them. So don't judge, but I think I breastfed Dudley at Digby until he was about 3.5.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Poppy, I wish I would have breastfed Poppy for longer. I think I did Poppy for about 13 months. And then Olive and Hattie, about 2.5 years. Digby.
So were you breastfeeding both? Because they're quite close together in age, aren't they?
No. So when I'd finished, there's 20 months, so it would have been 2 years actually. There's 20 months between Hattie and Olive, so it must have been 16 months. And then it was about 2 years with Hattie, about 3.5 years with Digby, and then about 2 years with Dudley. But it was funny, when you get into that stage where you really need to like get them off the breast. So I was like reading up on how to do that. And it was either Digby or Dudley. And Marmite was like bloody brilliant. So I put some Marmite on the nipples, but the saying, they either love it or they hate it. Well, ended up bloody loving it. I was like, Jesus. So that didn't work.
Oh no.
What about you? Did you breastfeed? Did you breastfeed the other two?
I did. I feel very lucky because I know not everyone can breastfeed, and so I certainly don't want to make anyone feel bad. But I did breastfeed, and I tell you, the other thing I tell new mums is, no matter what they tell you, it bloody hurts at first. Well, it did me every single time. I had about 3 weeks, sometimes like worse than child pain. I had to practice all my like hypnobirthing more for blooming bleeding nipples. But after 3 weeks, then it all just went, and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, I breastfed. Betsy had to stop because I started work as a doctor.
Wow.
So I stopped when she was about 10 months, and then the others I did.
Do you know what's interesting? So one thing I realised, and you might have had the same thing. So when you breastfeed, when you finish breastfeeding your child, like so when they get to however age, if you think that's what you remember that position. So then when you have the newborn, they're on a different position, aren't they? But what we tend to do when we have our second child, if we breastfeed, we automatically go back to breastfeeding, a 10-month-old or a 2-year-old. So that's why the nipples chat, because we automatically go back into that. Yeah. But
even though they were latched on, Nelly, my nipples were terrible, but she was a big fat baby, so I knew she was getting lots of milk.
Did you ever have that where literally you'd be breastfeeding and you'd be talking to your friend, the baby would slip off and you'd just be squirting milk? Yeah, that happens several times. Or even worse, when you're in the middle of the deed and then they just start squirting out at your partner. It's actually quite cold when it lands on them. They're like, oh my God, what is this? I'm like, it's my boobs, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, because it's the oxytocin that happens that can be linked. In fact, that's the other thing Davina McCall told me, actually. She was like, your childbirth will help if you can get a little bit sexy.
Yeah.
I was like, what, during the childbirth? She was like, yeah.
By the way, Davina, we're totally tagging you in this. Feel free to share it.
Please feel free to share, Davina. And thank you for your tips. They really work. In fact, to be honest, I guess Davina started the inspiration. Oh no, I was already on the hypnobirthing path, actually.
No, let's go back. This will make a great hook for our promo video.
Thanks, Davina.
Do you want to know what Davina McCall and us two have in fashion?
So I did breastfeed, and I did love it. And I think if people are pregnant and wondering whether or not to even do it or not do it, there are lots of amazing benefits. In fact, one of my favorite human kind of how amazing is our human body facts.
I know what you're going to say here.
Have I already told you?
No, but I know what you're going to say. You're going to say about how it changes. Oh yeah.
Well, it kind of.
Okay, go on. I'm gonna I'm interrupting. I'm getting excited.
That all mammals lick their babies' mouths.
Wow.
So you know when you have a baby, you want to kiss it on the lips. Like it's like an overwhelming desire to kiss it on the lips, right? You can't resist it. And like elephants lick their baby's mouth, you know, like everybody, all the mammals do. And it's because they're picking up through that kiss or that lick the bugs that are about to enter the baby's mouth. And the baby doesn't really have its own immune system yet. So what we do is when you kiss your baby, I pick up the bugs that are about to enter his mouth. I make exactly the antibodies needed to fight off those exact bugs, produce them in my breast milk and pass them on. So the baby's got exactly what it needs.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Absolutely incredible.
Is amazing. Right. What top tips can we give then? So if you are currently pregnant, watch this or listen to this, just be open and watch like what I would do. I would research or look for really positive birthing stories. So you're getting a positive bias.
Yeah. One thing I always think about as well is when you're doing, for example, the breathing techniques, to get really into them, because I often give the example of, you know, if you stub your toe and it really hurts, the first thing you do is kind of like, you like go, and you squeeze all your muscles.
Yeah,
like I think I've literally squeezed like all my muscles, my pelvic floor muscles and everything then as you kind of do
I'm
it.
doing that now.
And that's what people do. Having now as a doctor worked on the labour ward, seen many, many births, and it's the fear that drives that as well. So through the fear, the tensing comes. And if you're trying, you know, what you do need is you need your muscles to
I've just
relax.
opened my vagina. As you said the time, I'm like, no, mentally visualize
So
it.
you do, it is the difference. So if you can get over the fear and do the breathing techniques in order to open and relax, and it kind of almost goes against, you know, that kind of nervous energy you've got where you want to squeeze in. So I do think it really can make a difference, but you've got me on board.
I tell you what helped me. So when I had the girls, my sister was my birthing partner, and as I'm going through it, again, you tense up, like you said, and then she started to massage me. And as she massaged my body relaxed, I was like, oh, okay, then, I need to relax. And it really hit home. Yeah.
Yeah, but then not all labours go to plan. So Ernie was, I was induced.
Oh, so totally different.
Oh, that's why I think, like you said, when I had the breath work, I reimagined his birth. It was still fine. Yeah. But I've also seen lots of births where it doesn't go to plan. Obviously, the main thing is the baby's fine, you're fine. And with breastfeeding or bottle feeding, fed babies, you know, and a happy mum as well. Yeah. So I think for me, I loved having, you know, my water birth for Nelly was the best, and I love breastfeeding. But I would also say because what some women do is they have a really prescriptive birth plan. Yeah. I must have a water birth. I do not want any drugs, you know, I would just say be willing to go with the flow. Yeah,
do you know, it's interesting actually, because I think even with all of that, like even with breastfeeding and stuff, I always said to myself, you know, if I can't do it, then I'm not going to put so much pressure on, or even with the birth. And I think because you're automatically taking that pressure off, whereas when it has to be a certain way, again, you're creating unnecessary stress and tension in your body. And that's it. Like the only reason why you want to have a nice birth is to have the baby at the end, but that's the goal. So however the goal comes, as long as the baby's happy and healthy and mum is, then I totally agree with you on that one.
Yeah, but I'd have been sad if I hadn't have known about hypnobirthing.
Yeah.
You know, so I think get it out there. People can read up on it, try it.
Oh, I'll tell you what, actually, for anyone listening, what was the nipple cream? Like I used to was it Lancet?
Lancino.
Oh, no, I used a different one. Lancet, was it? You can use it on your lips as well, can't you?
Well, I do have I buy lanolin.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Is it the purple one?
That's the Lancido.
Yeah, it is.
That comes in a little tube. It's quite expensive, but you can buy on Amazon a big tub of lanolin, and it's amazing for like if you've got dry skin anywhere, lips, cracked heels, anything. It's brilliant.
You can also buy nipple shields as well, can't you? I've never used the nipple shields for. Have you used them?
You can for breastfeeding if it hurts. Yeah, they're not advised if you can avoid it. I can't remember why. But
well, we won't put the link for them. That's fine. We won't. We'll just do the
But okay. So but before we go then, because last episode we didn't have time to talk about our kind of, because at the end we often like to talk about like our favourite things to share with you, often health and beauty. Last time the time before we talked about books.
What is it?
Oh, well, so it's actually just sun cream, right? But this sounds, but people are always asking me on my Dr. Sophie lifestyle channel. I've done a video all about, sunscreen and what you can do to fight aging, what are the best sun creams to use, does it cause cancer? There's lots of worries about it. So have a look at that on my Dr. Sophie Lifestyle YouTube channel. And people are always asking, what is the sun cream I recommend? And this one is amazing. It's called Altruist. It's been created by a British dermatologist, and it is amazing. I use it every day actually, and it's Nelly always had eczema, and she struggled with any sort of sun cream, and this has been amazing for her. So yeah, you can use it as moisturizer every day. And the profits they make go towards albino children in Africa. Towards that. I'm not in any way affiliated with Altruist. I don't make any money from this. Genuinely just a fan. So that,
I can't. What products have I got? I'm thinking if I've got any products.
Are you going to talk about your cups? Something?
Oh yeah, my cup. Oh my God, right. So basically, I'm following this. So I'm trying my best, right, to not have anything done right. But I feel like I'm starting to get to the age now where maybe a little Bodags might be coming in useful.
Oh, we should definitely talk about that another one too.
Yeah, we should. But I'm kind of, it freaks me out a little bit. I get a bit scared, but I think it's because I've grown up with my mum all my life. Like, don't do it. Anyway, so I'm trying everything and anything to be preventative. And I've come across this lady on Instagram. She's like in her 50s. She looks about 25. And she's cupping away. She's like sucking it out. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? So it's a Chinese cupping therapy, but essentially you squeeze them and then you pull them across. But I've got this book and it helps to produce collagen, to remove toxins. But this woman looks absolutely incredible. And it works with the lymph nodes and drains the lymphatic system. That's right, of the face. But when I've been doing it, because it's pulling out the toxins, I've started to get spots around my chin here. But I do feel like my skin's looking better. Yeah. You can buy them on Amazon too. Links below. Yeah.
We'll add a link. if you want to try that. Good. Yeah. All right. Well, that was a nice bit of chit chat. I enjoyed listening to your stories.
And yours too, girl.
So that was episode
7.
Yeah. So if you haven't watched or listened to the other ones, have a look on either YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We talk about all sorts of interesting things, don't we?
We do.
And let us know if you've got any thoughts on it. What are your experiences of childbirth like and breastfeeding? And if there's anything else you want to talk about in the future.
See you later.
Bye.